How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Sharkboy48 here. Welcome back to another video. And today we hit another chapter of My Hero Academia 413. Guys, we're so close. So close of finishing up this whole series and this manga, My Hero Academia, guys. And the battle's getting really intense and when things are getting quite interesting. And above all, this 413th chapter is a little bit twisted. I do say so myself. A little bit twisted at this battle because things are pretty much flipped upside down at this point because Deku is what I read from the manga, what I saw from the manga. I heard that Deku is turning out a little bit more aggressive on this fight, and he's pretty much getting more powerful as well. But at this point, he's out of control. So I don't know why or what's going on. I don't know what made him like this, but I'm going to find out in this chapter. So let's dive on in.
We got the 413 spoilers, and of course, we are continuing the final battle of My Hero Academia as Deku continues to try to take down Shigaraki without completely taking him out, trying to save him, and that's what this chapter is mostly about. So coming off of the previous one, we saw that Deku now had to adapt to fight Shigaraki now that he has taken the fourth user's danger sense from him. Then it eventually led to us seeing that Shigaraki was able to suppress, essentially, the Tenko aspect of his consciousness, I guess you could say, by sealing it in the all-for-one vestige world, or whatever you want to call it. Until at the end of the chapter, we suddenly saw within that vestige world Star and Stripe's hand point, and the final panel having Kudo, the second user, saying that he has to part ways with One for All, and that was somewhat of an ambiguous ending, and this chapter is giving us full insight into what Kudo was talking about. So the chapter begins with a flashback of Star/New Order's final moments inside the All for One vestiges. While fighting the other quirks, she saw something quite unusual. Master, there's a sad child over there, as she points to a crack. All Might then wakes up. So yeah, we were actually talking about this in the previous chapter because, Star and Stripe showing up, and the last time we saw her was after Shigaraki/All for One took her quirk, which is actually being referenced here, New Order, one of the best quirks in the series. It was kind of wasted, to be honest. I wish it came back, but that's neither here nor there. She was fighting off the other quirks as she was dying within the vestige world, but now we're seeing some bonus footage to that sequence because apparently she was able to see the Tenko fragment of Shigaraki within the All for One vestige world. And that's exactly what she was pointing to, as we speculated about before. But now we're coming back to All Might, who is still watching the final battle from afar. And Edshot says that All Might needs to stay awake so he doesn't die, but All Might isn't sure what happened. He's having a vision, just like when he was in the hospital with Deku after the...
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app and $9.99 a month for a music app and $12.99
war. But how? He's too far away from Deku right now. Is One for All becoming frayed? So, again, Edshot still alive somehow. I guess he's just gonna live. All Might came off of his final battle against All for One, so he's still on shaky legs, but he's gonna make it. And apparently he's still able to see some visions of what's happening with the One for All vestige stuff, despite all of the embers and his quirk factor being completely gone. But we're going to find out why there's a possible way that he's still seeing this, because it cuts back to the fight and Tomura doesn't understand why he had a vision of Star. I've annihilated you. But then he remembers her last line about heroes always inheriting each other's will, and thinks about the possibility of it being an ember of Star's flame. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Factor. Also, if you're familiar with HelloFresh, which I've also used before and love, Factor is in partnership with them. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more. Plus, over 55 weekly add-ons will have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Factor has everything you need for a week of flavorful, nutritious eats. In addition to ready-to-eat meals, they have cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, extra protein, veggie sides, and more to keep me energized during frantic times. Factor also has these great wellness shots. I tried the turmeric spice with lemon, apple, ginger, honey, turmeric, and black pepper. Taking this on a fasted stomach really woke me up. It genuinely made me feel great. I tried the spicy poblano beef bowl with roasted broccoli, rice, and scallion sour cream. I absolutely loved this. The beef was so tender, and the poblano works so well with the roasted broccoli rice, and the scallion sour cream just ties it all
Good.
together. I also tried the caramelized onion and goat cheese risotto with roasted carrots. I'm a big fan of everything here, especially goat cheese and caramelized onions, and it works so well with the risotto, and I love roasted carrots. Couldn't get enough of this one. So guys, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ZONIN50 to get 50% off of your first Factor box. That's such a great offer. And again, it's code ZONIN50 to get 50% off of your first Factor box. Thanks, guys. So yeah, this explains why All Might is still able to see whatever is going on with the One for All drama. And the inheriting will stuff, I understand it, of course, but I've just got off of reviewing the latest One Piece chapter as well, and they're literally doing the same thing there. I won't give you any spoilers, of course, but I'll just say that it's, same stuff that we're talking about here, essentially. And this explains why Star still has some kind of semblance within Shigaraki, despite her literal corporeal being gone, along with her quirk factor and quirk and vestige. Well, I guess not the vestige, since an ember of her quote-unquote flame is still there. Still able to point out things and to have other vestiges see it somehow. Deku is thrown to the ground and asks what Kudo meant by that, referring to what happened at the end of the previous chapter, saying that you have to part ways with One for All. And he begins to explain the lump of lead inside of Shigaraki represented all the anger, frustration, and memories of his past, but now it all came together, solidified and formed an impenetrable layer of hatred. So yeah, we were just talking about that. We saw this in the previous chapter. That big Shibaku Tensei looking thing is just suppressing Tenko. Also as we speculated about, even though Shigaraki's trying to act like he got completely rid of the Tenko aspect of him, it's just simply been buried. And it's no longer being held back by hands like it was when All for One was still around. Now it's just buried by debris, or as they're saying, lump of lead, which is also the title of this chapter. However, All Might's vestige noticed a crack. During the fight against Star, a wound opened up inside his consciousness, and since it's a mental wound, it can't be healed with a quirk. Current Tomura is too strong to be defeated, so they have to finish him off from the inside. So yeah, this also goes into what we were talking about at the end of the previous chapter as well. Izuku possibly giving Shigaraki One for All so that they can battle him from the inside. And speaking of that, transferring One for All to Shigaraki will make that crack increase in size until it breaks, allowing them to reach his consciousness directly. But N, the sixth user, the smoke quirk guy, disagrees with this plan, and he thinks that this will only make Shigaraki stronger, just like what happened with Danger Sense. Kudo says that he has to expand his idea of transferring. Just as Deku used to have the egg microwave imagery, he has to visualize it in a more aggressive way. Kudo has an example. During lessons, how does Bakugo pass papers to Deku? He throws them in his face. Wow, what a throwback. Egg microwave imagery? I think this is season 2 stuff. Yeah, when he was learning how to use full cowling with Gran Torino. Wow, it makes me realize how long I've been covering this series. But Kudo, the second user, is insinuating that he has to force feed One for All to Shigaraki so that, I don't know, it can bypass any kind of benefits he would get from it. Depending on the way the transfer goes, Shigaraki could take damage. And to test it, Kudo volunteers to go first. Since only Shinomori got stolen a while back, they know that it's possible to transfer only part of the power, only the quirk factor strengthened by One for All. N says that if someone has to go, it has to be him, since Smokescreen is being the most useless quirk right now. Kudo says no, and N continues, saying that it'll be the end if Shigaraki uses Gear Shift. And I like how they are arguing, and they both have good arguments, because it's true. Kudo can take his gamble and maybe it works. I mean, it most likely will work since he is so sure of it, and the way that it's being said here seems like it is going to play out that way, and I'll go more into it at the end. But also, if Shigaraki can successfully use Gear Shift, he's going to become like Ultra Super Saiyan, just the way that Izuku did against All for One, last year. So it is a gamble. But Kudo is pretty sure that if the quirk is transferred, the level of the recoil won't get reset. In other words, if Shigaraki uses Gear Shift, he'll be more exhausted than Deku is now, since he'll be using it in extra time. So Rukasu expands upon that by saying, I don't think I conveyed this properly, so let me just try to explain it better. Let's say Deku used Gear Shift 3 times, so if Shigaraki tries to use it now, it'll be the 4th time the quirk is activated, meaning that he'll get a stronger recoil. So, I guess that makes the gamble even better, because if Shigaraki does use Gear Shift, then it will only give him a little bit of time to be God, and then it'll just wear off, and then he'll, I guess, pass out. But still, the things that he could accomplish within the time where Gear Shift is active, it's like he could just, in theory, destroy all of Japan within minutes. Bruce, the 3rd user, says that he has always followed Kudo, but he doesn't agree with this decision, and Kudo says that he knows it's a risky bet. They've lived in dark times and fought in cruel battles, so now he wants to believe in the boy who hasn't given up on saving a heart. We see a flashback of Deku saying that he's blessed to have All Might near him, and Nana's vestige appears. She says that Deku's hesitating not because he's afraid or because he can't handle it, but because he considers One for All a treasure that he got from his favorite hero. Tomura tells them to stop yapping, and Kudo asks Banjo, the 5th user, to stay by the boy's side. He also asks Yoichi to help, and he simply says, leave it to me, my hero. Kudo shouts, the rest is up to you. What do you say, Izuku Midoriya? And Deku replies, I'll do it. So that's pretty cool. Kudo finally calling Izuku by his name. He usually refers to him as the 9th, like the 9th user of One for All. A huge wave of black whips tear Tomura's arm off. Shigaraki stares at his opponent and says, looking at you, I'd never guess you're a hero. Deku is shirtless and has black whips all over his body. It's such a cool visual and a great spread. End of chapter. So yes, it is a pretty cool visual and a great spread. Izuku is in like full goblin mode right now. Like he does straight up look like a villain. It's pretty cool. And this is what Izuku was referred to during the quote unquote Dark Deku arc, or Deku Black arc. I don't know what the official name of it is. But back when he was in vigilante mode, emo, I guess you could also say his emo phase. But this is him in his mode to essentially force a fragment of One for All into Shigaraki, being Kudo, the 2nd user, the Gear Shift quirk. Because before we saw that Shigaraki forcefully tried to take One for All and wound up only taking the 4th user's quirk because he sacrificed himself so that the other vestiges would be taken. Now we're reversing it, and we're forcefully sending over Kudo into Shigaraki in an attempt to break him down from the inside out. Kind of like injecting like a vaccine into somebody to stop a virus. I guess it's kind of like the same fundamental. And that's actually even more applicable because One for All comes from All for One, just like a vaccine would from a virus, right? Is that how it works? I don't know. There's some smart people who will probably correct me in the comments. But I like this because I think it will eventually lead to all of the vestiges eventually jumping ship and going into Shigaraki. And then we might see, finally, all of the vestiges team up together and like fight against the vestige version of Shigaraki, or maybe all of the quirks start rebelling, kind of like how they did against Star and Stripe, and they have to fight them, or they just fight the inner working of Shigaraki because they're trying to get the Tenko, and he's going to fight them off by doing that. So them all working together eventually would be incredible, and it's just going to start with Kudo here. He's like the guinea pig essentially. And like I also said, we need to have that big moment where Nana finally talks to Shigaraki and they have their heart to heart or whatever, or heart to non-heart. But yeah, I'll go way more into this chapter once we get the full release of it. Hopefully, I'll have it out Friday morning. That's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you.
Okay, like I said in the beginning, things are getting a little bit twisted. Deku is pretty much shirtless, yes, and he's turned to some kind of freak aggressive hero right now. And he's pretty much overpowered himself from one for all, which trying to, avoid not getting decayed and trying to figure out a plan to stop Shigaraki and save Tenko. Obviously, like he said before, I think one for all and the Vegetables people are going to go inside Shigaraki's spirit thing or body and just try to get Tenko out of there and stop him and defeat him once for all. Hopefully, we might see that in chapter 414. I mean, I don't know if we're on break, but we might or we may not. Probably next week, we might see 414 as soon as possible, but I can't wait. Although, I hope, Deku, gets his consciousness back to it because if Tenko really gets out there free and Shigaraki's gone for, Deku's gonna probably have to snap out of it because I don't know if he might get one for all back, but he might get a switch up with the new quirk, with the new order of, starting strikes. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully he might get a new order because obviously if you let go one for all, you may not gonna get it back. Just like you did in Heroes Rising when you took down nine, you lost your quirk and it reverted back to you. So it might. I'm not sure, but it might. Who knows? I mean, I'm just predicting. So yeah, that's it for today's chapter, guys, and that's it for today's video. And thanks for watching. See you later.